What's up? Give me a couple of seconds. Let me get my pen right. Oh, wait a second. There he is. Good morning, all. So, as usual, he's about to come in. Let us know where y'all from. What's up, my brother? How are you?
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
So, you know, I need to turn my, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so, first of all, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I've admired your work for a while, and looking at you from afar, I'm like, that guy's pretty talented. That guy's pretty cool. That guy's pretty smart. That guy works hard. So, again, thank you and welcome. So tell us who you are and where you're from.
So my name is Franz. I'm from Germany, to be more precise, from Bavaria, and I'm a self-employed woodturner for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. First, how is it in Germany with COVID?
It's actually pretty good concerning the situation. So the government started pretty early taking actions. So we have been very lucky so far. But you know, there are always people who prefer to have a conspiracy over facts, and this is something that's going on at the moment, and a lot of people discovering that we have a constitution, even if they wouldn't care at all at other times. So
Right.
yeah, the situation with COVID itself is good, but some people are going a bit crazy.
Yeah. People always take it a little bit too far.
Yeah.
So, what we want to talk about is your journey.
Yeah.
We'll start with what you would do high school, everything that
Yeah.
you were doing in high school, and what led up to you becoming a woodworker.
Yeah, I did something that's called middle school in Germany.
Yep.
It's like the kind of school that prepares you for an apprenticeship.
Okay.
Then I started an apprenticeship as a precision engineer. So I worked at a plastic molding company.
Okay.
And when I finished my apprenticeship, so we have something like a bachelor's degree in crafts here in Germany.
Okay.
Then I went back to school to do my A-level because I always wanted to go to university. And after I finished my A-level, I went to university to study science of engineering.
Now, what kind of
But
engineering?
science of engineering.
The science of engineering. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like a little bit of everything. So math, chemistry, physics, and yeah, all that typical kind of
Okay.
stuff.
So, all right. So, one second. So, while you were in school, were you doing anything handy with your hands, or you were just straight in the books?
Yeah, it's we have a farm. So I'm living on a farm in a very rural area, and
Now,
there's a lot of craftsmanship around. So
okay. So,
so
hold up 1 second, right? What's up,
yeah.
David Stein? David Stein lives on a farm too. What kind of farm did you grow up on?
It's a small organic farm in the Bavarian mountains.
And what did you all farm?
Uh,
Livestock?
once again, please.
I mean, what did you all farm? Was it animals or food?
Yeah, we have chickens and we have some oxes, and
Okay.
but it's really small, so like just a few acres.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. So go ahead. You're talking about the crafting.
Yeah, and so the craft is never far away. So you're
Right.
growing up in the woods,
What's up,
so
brother? All
you're
right.
building little shacks. So you do this all kind of out style uh, childhood kind of thing. So you have a contact to wood and woodworking pretty early, and since a lot of people around me are craftsmen, I always in some kind of way work with wood. So it wasn't I was never a craftsman really before, but I was always pretty keen to different. Yeah,
Think the sound's going in and out?
yeah. But do you understand me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Um, yeah, and so I grew up in a pretty crafty environment. So my parents always did everything on their own when they worked on the house. So besides from electrics and plumber work, we did everything on our own. So I learned a lot of crafts early.
Okay. Um, so did you work in engineering at all?
No, I didn't even finish my university. So I've been to university for about 1 year, and then I got ill, so I had to pause my studies. And on my journey to getting well again, I discovered woodturning. So this is
Okay, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to you? You say you were ill and had to drop out of school.
yeah. So at first I didn't really know because it was all physically. So I felt really tired. I was exhausted all the times, but my mind was restless. So I thought
That's
that
me every day.
yeah, but it's so on some days going out of bed and having a shower felt I can do it. I was really uh,
You're going in and out.
yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm very sorry because I have a good connection.
That's fine. We're good.
Okay. Yeah. So long story short, I had a major depression, and but on the good side was that I never felt like mentally down, but I just had really yeah I was just exhausted all the time, and I was looking for something that I could do with all my time because I wasn't able to work, I wasn't able to continue my studies. And then I thought, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to start wood turning.
Right.
And I couldn't walk up the stairs without being exhausted, but I could be in the workshop all day long. So I thought, yeah, maybe that's something that works for me. And yeah, 2 years later, I started my own wood turning business.
Okay, wait a second. Let's slow that part down, right? So what made you decide to start turning?
So turning is nothing that's far away. So in our community, wood turning is something that's pretty well known. So this
Okay.
it's not something you have to come across because it's you're used to wood turning as a craft.
Right.
And so I was just thinking of ways, yeah, to spend my time. And actually wood turning is great because you don't need a lot of tools. You don't need expensive tools to start wood turning. So you just basically just need a lathe and some tools, and for the best part a chainsaw or a bandsaw, and then you can start wood turning.
Okay. All
So
right.
it
So
was
did you train with anyone in your neighborhood?
no, I'm completely self-taught.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a tough journey, because it's all like trial and error and
Yes.
learning from, and you know there's so much crap around on YouTube, so there's like 9, or let's say there's 19 bad videos and there's just one good. And
Right. And you don't know it's bad until you've
yeah,
tried it
yeah,
out and it doesn't work.
yeah. But and so it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and you make a lot of things wrong. But the good thing is, in wood turning, there are like a lot of rules that have been passed down from one to the next generation. So things that you do and things that you don't do. But if you don't have a teacher that tells you all those things, then you don't know what you don't do, and then you just try it. And so this is how, um, yeah, new things are created in crafts.
Yes, but through ignorance. I'm
Yeah.
to say that when I first started into the stuff, people started collecting fans, and from fans I got into old Volkswagen and Porsches. So I got into building, restoring engines. I have a milling machine, I have a lathe, but I had to learn it all by trial and error, and I had no one to teach me, and it took so long. I got discouraged. So
Yeah.
I met this guy, Nick Sesson in Virginia, near DC, and I went and spent a couple of weekends with him, and he had the whole setup. And I learned more in those couple of weekends than I did for the last 9 months trying to figure it out by myself. So you're correct in when you're winging it and you're doing it by yourself, you create new ways to do something, or you figure out something that works for you that may not necessarily be traditional.
Yeah.
And that has to do with your drive. All right, so what was your first job?
Yeah, my first job in wood turning, or what?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's because I started as a hobby wood turner. So the first 2 years I was a hobby wood turner, and then I started being self-employed. So there were no jobs. I just started making, and the first thing that I made was actually a bowl. And as you can see in the background, this is what I what I still stick to.
But we're going to eventually get to that, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I just started making. So I made bowls, and I made pencils. I made all this kind of small, like spinning tops or small accessories. So I had no direction where I wanted to go. I just started making, and as I learned and as I got more experience, I found out what I really want to do. But there were always people around that said, "Oh, that's beautiful. Can I buy it?" And so then I started selling the first pieces, and yeah, and at some point I decided to become self-employed. So there's no magic story around that. So it just happened.
Right. Okay. So what's the biggest wood turning job you've had? Like how many pieces?
Yeah, not too many. I think 60 small bowls.
Okay. All right.
So I usually don't work on commissions. So I have a showroom, and I became self-employed to be able to do what I want.
Right.
So there companies can ask for things, but they cannot dictate me the design. So when there's a company that says, "Oh, we want to buy like 60 bowls," and I show them possible designs, and when they say, "Okay, that's fine," then I make it. So it's not that they say, "Oh, we have a." It's always my design and my idea. So there are not too many commissions. It's more people that come across my stuff and to buy it.
Okay. All right. So, what's the most amount of bowls you can turn in a day?
I can turn up to 160 bolt lengths. So this
In
is
a
what
day?
you can, yeah, in a day. So it's this is actually a small one, um, but I'm always working from green wood. So
Nice.
I cut down the trees myself, or I'm looking for trees that just have been cut down, and then I bring them home and then I process them. So I have to do all the steps from filleting the tree to drying the plank and everything. So I'm turning bowl blanks in every size and shape, and then I air dry them. Um, to make sure that I have phone lengths in every size available.
Okay.
So, and when it comes to finish bowls, I would say so turning, sanding, oiling, um, I can make up to 35 bowls a day.
All right. Wow. That's impressive. And what's the largest size bowl you can turn?
So the lathe allows me to turn 80 centimeters, so I think that's about 35 inch. I'm
Wow.
not good at this, but
Neither
yeah,
am I. So that's around 3 feet.
yeah. But um, theoretically, I could turn a way bigger bowl, but over the bed of the lathe, so without swinging the headstock, I can turn 80 centimeters in diameter, which is pretty big. And
Okay.
it's fun to make those big bowls, but usually there are no people that have a table that is big enough. So
Somebody wants to buy out.
yeah,
So how many do you okay? Do you know how many bowls are behind you?
in this room there are about 3,500 bowl blanks.
God. Jesus.
Yeah, but the story behind this is actually not so funny because I always make bowl blanks when I don't sell work. So when I've made a lot of bowls and I'm not able to sell them and my stock is full, then I always turn bowl blanks. And so you can see that I don't sell a lot of bowls.
Never enough. It's never ever enough.
Yeah.
Um, so your clientele comes from where?
Actually from everywhere. So it's not that. So I sold one of my most expensive pieces to a farmer from the neighborhood. And I have also customers that have that are very wealthy. So I have like CEOs from very big companies to farmers from the neighborhood. And I think it's not so much about the financial background, it's more people that have a sense for wood, so that enjoy
Appreciation.
craft. Yeah, appreciation. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to a couple of questions.
Yeah.
What is your favorite wood to turn?
It's actually not a species. It's more like I have a favorite piece in every tree. So if I have a big tree, then there are always 2 or 3 pieces that are nicer than all the other pieces. And then I have a most favorite piece, and then I work with the next tree, and then I have again a most favorite piece. So it's there are obviously species that turn better than others, and you can basically turn every piece of wood, but the result is not worth the struggle sometimes. So if I had to pick one wood to work with it for the rest of my life, it probably would be oak.
Red or white?
Red.
Red.
Yeah.
Okay.
But from a woodworker's perspective, I know that must sound weird, but
yes.
Oak is actually a perfect wood for wood turning. It's not that easy to dry because it tends to crack, but the turning or the cutting itself is really good. And for wood turning, you leave the oak trunks laying on the ground for 3 or 5 years, until the sap wood starts to rot. And then you start processing it, and then it tastes like butter.
Yeah, it's kind of like beach. You let it calm down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Because when we flat woodworkers work with wood, I turn as well. Red oak is not on the desirable end. It is the least desirable. And in the States, in America, and especially here on the Northeast in New York, it's everywhere, and it gets really, really big. People a lot of times say, "Oh, I have a big red oak tree." I'm like, "Where's it located?" They're like, "In my backyard." I'm like, I don't want it. So let's see if we have any more questions. I think we're doing.
I think someone asked where I get my wood from.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's so we are in a very rural area, so there is forests all around, and there is always someone who cuts down a tree. So when I'm driving around, I always see trees being felled. And if I see from a distance that this is maybe a species that I'm looking for, then I just stop by and ask the people if I can buy it. So this is basically how I get my wood. So I'm just asking locals that. And there are actually people that are calling me because they have trees. But those are usually the people that think they have like a piece of gold in their backyard.
And they want to sell it.
Yeah, of course. And they see the price of the perfect dried, like carpenter quality wood, and this is what they want to sell it for. And then I say, no, you have to pay me because I have to remove all the crap from your back.
It's a little go ahead.
Yeah. So right. Go on with the next questions, maybe.
Yeah.
So, how big is my space? So, since I'm living on a farm, there's one thing that I have enough, and that's space. So sometimes my father gets mad at me because he has to he needs some space for obviously the farm stuff. But
and you turn it into your woodworking studio.
Yeah, and you know, there are those kind of big bags that you drive around with the forklift, and I use them to dry all this scrap wood, and so they're everywhere on the farm. And my father sometimes gets crazy because he don't know where to put them. But on the other hand, he didn't have to go into the forest for yeah, for 10 years to make firewood because my scrap wood is enough to heat the house.
Right. Yeah, Blisswood work. So what types of common woods do you work with? How many different species of wood do you have in your place now?
I think about 15. So
15?
yeah, but in Germany we don't have those many different species. So
Okay.
basically the woods I'm working with the most is ash, which is a bit sad because we have the ash disease
It's
arriving at the
everywhere.
moment. Yeah, it's everywhere. So yeah, there's more ash around than that I can turn. Then I think the second one is the maple. So we have a very nice species of maple that's a bit like a sugar or hard maple.
Yep, sugar maple.
Yeah.
What about ambrosia maple? Do you have ambrosia maple there?
No, because we don't have ambrosia. So
You don't have the beetle. That's good.
yeah, that's good. But this is one of the things we are missing at the moment. So.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. No, actually, we have so many crap from that has been imported from other countries. So like it started with the elm disease, and now it's the ash
Yes.
disease. And we have the yeah some bugs that came from China. So it's not very good situations for the trees in our area at the moment.
Yeah, this is. I mean, all around the world,
Yeah.
the trees are dying. Here, when Hurricane Sandy hit, a lot of trees came down, and the state, the Army Corps of Engineers,
Yeah.
started calling people saying, "Hey, come and get this wood. We'll pay you to take it."
Yeah.
And I signed up to go and look at it. And it was this enormous pile of wood. And I got a couple of trucks together to take the wood because they were paying like $40-something,
Yeah.
$200 a yard.
Yeah.
So once they found out I was going to make furniture out of it,
Yeah.
they pulled it off the table.
Yeah.
So I could take the wood at this point, but they weren't going to pay me.
Yeah.
Now, they would pay, someone who's going to cut up the firewood. They would pay someone who's going to turn it into mulch, but they wouldn't pay me to take it, and I was turning it into to furniture. And there was some host, they gave you a list of woods that you could not take. Maple, elm, ash, anything that could get a bug, you could not take.
Yeah.
So you could imagine no baseball bats because of the ash. They're using maple. That's a little more difficult. The maple trees are eaten up. There's no maple syrup.
Yeah.
So the state of New York put a ton of money into trying to solve the bug problem with the trees.
Yeah.
And when I was at Floyd Bennett Field, there must have been five or six different government agencies that were circling this pile.
Yeah.
People were driving around this pile of wood 24 hours a day to make sure that no one was coming in to take anything out.
Yeah.
So that's how serious the beetle infestation is to the country and the world.
Yeah.
We had a very precious tree here called chestnut.
Yeah.
And there's no more chestnut trees because of blight. A bug ate them all.
Yeah.
And now it's one of our most precious woods in lumber.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. Okay, Jeff Whitney what do you use to put a finish on it, and do you use a finish for bowls that are used for food?
Yeah, so I have two different concepts when it comes to finishing my work. So the first one is I always call it gallery work, and for this kind of work I use a hardwood oil. And the idea behind this is to keep the piece as long as possible in the condition that you sell it, or
Okay.
that you buy it. So it doesn't change over the years if you use a good hardworks oil, but it doesn't age too well in daily use. And when I have bowls that will be used on a daily basis, for example, like salad bowls, and then I use a blend of natural oils and waxes. So, for example, hemp seed oil and beeswax or sugarcone wax or carnauba wax. And so I have a, yeah, let's say a secret mixture,
I was going to ask that.
but it's basically all natural oils that are drying. So you can use poppy seed oil, or you can, I have a method of washing and refining linseed oil. And this is what I use for like the daily use work. And it's not that sturdy, so it changes, but it ages more nicely when you use it. So a hardworks oil finish doesn't age that nice if you use it on a daily basis. And the kind of natural oils have better aging qualities. So does it make sense?
Yes. So if you sell this bowl, do you sell the oil with it? It needs to be reapplied, right, for the daily use?
No.
No. Okay.
So I use it. So if you have a very good quality hardworks oil, then it's food safe. It has low odor, and it's used for wooden floors, and it has to be sturdy enough that you can walk on it for years, and then it's just fine for a wooden bowl. And the bowls that are used with food, they get their oil from the food. So if you have a salad bowl, then you use a salad oil, and this is just fine. If
it nourishes the bowl.
Yeah, and if the initial seasoning has been done properly, and I do it very properly. I use even an oven to melt in the oil wax solution. So it's sealed very properly. And that.
So you put the wood in the oven with the oil to bake it on.
Yeah, yeah, and then the heat makes the air expand. And when you put the piece out of the oven, then it soaks in the oil. And also the heat from the oven starts the reaction, because the natural oils take an awful amount of time to cure. So 3 weeks to 3 months, and you really want to speed that up.
Big time. Said what temperature do you bake them at?
So it's 100 degrees Celsius, so right at the boiling point of water.
Okay.
Because if there's any remaining moisture, then you drive it out. And the good thing is, when you put it in the oven after you oiled it, there will be no cracks. So you oil the piece.
It's dry, right?
Yeah, and even if it's not perfectly dry, but if you use a lot of oil to cover the whole surface, then the moisture goes out, but it doesn't crack. But it just works with wood that is almost dry. So you shouldn't try this with green wood. So this doesn't work. I tried it.
This comes from 10 years of doing this. Right. So I'm gonna try this at home. Let's see, we got any more questions?
Yeah, I think someone asked for a beginner's toolkit. And so when you're a wood turner, then you shouldn't have like a beginner's toolkit. So
yeah.
So my journey is maybe a bit odd, because I'm completely self-taught. But when I learned to be, or in my apprenticeship as a precision engineer, I worked with metal spinning lathes, and I worked with and I did metal milling. So I used all the metalworking machinery. So I had a pretty good idea about the technical or physical side of cutting. And this helped me a lot. But for anyone who just wants to start woodturning, I would highly recommend to do a woodturning class, even if it's just for like a few hours. And at the workshop where you do the class, there are a lot of different tools, and you can ask if you can try them. And after this class, you know exactly, or you let's say you know better what tool you want to buy, and then you could buy like 3 or 4 good quality tools, and then you start working. Every time you come to a point where your tools are not doing the job, then you can look for the next tool. So I would start with a very, very small selection that fits what you want to do.
And grow from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started, I think I met Alan at the Pittsburgh Woodturner Symposium. And that's when I started talking to more people about wood turning, and they tell you don't buy a kit because you won't use anything in that kit.
Yeah, and there, if you buy like an 8-piece kit, there are always 3 tools that are no wood turning tools. So this is just pieces of metal, and you maybe grind it into a scraper at some point, but they're actually not wood turning tools. So and there is like, so I don't want to do like a Chinese tool bashing now, but there is this kind of 8 to 12 piece kit with the red lacquer handles that are sold everywhere in the world, with steel that is not even high-speed steel. And I think like
kitchen appliances.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, there are maybe 2 tools out of those 8 to 12 tools that you can actually use, and they are still crap. So.
Right. So what wood turners do you admire? Do you like follow a lot of people on Instagram that turn wood?
Yeah, but let's say that there are actually wood turners that I admire, but I don't have anything like idols. Because a lot of people start with a craft and then they have idols, and then they want to become like them, and they forget to become themselves.
Right, right.
There are people obviously like Hans Weißflug, who is a very popular German woodturner, or Ernst Gamperl, or Glenn Lucas, or for me. David Ellsworth, who is like the Bob Ross of woodturning. So there are very good craftsmen. Let's say there are people that inspire me, but I try to not look up to them. So there are some people that call me the German Glenn Lucas, but I'm not happy about that, because I don't want to be the German Glenn Lucas. I want to be the German Franz Keilhofer. So
exactly.
And I think in craft it's very important to find your own voice, and you cannot find your own voice by looking up to other people or by idolizing other people, and every now and then there is something like a scandal. There are people like that having predatory behavior or that kind of bad stuff, and this is just because people are putting others on like very high columns, and they're like, oh, everyone wants to be like them, and this is just this is not good for no one, not for the people who you are looking up to, neither for yourself. But just
right, we're all human.
Yeah, just try to be inspired by others, but don't try to be someone else.
Right. So, where'd you get your name from?
So, yeah, it's obviously because I'm a ginger. It turned out to be a pretty good choice, because the people that do understand this joke, they laugh, and it's a good entry to every conversation. And the people who don't get it, they ask me, so what is Ginger? Germans are sometimes pretty stupid when it comes to speaking English, and they're like, I always thought ginger is a spice, and then you tell the story about soulless little children who are getting bullied in school, and then everyone think it's funny.
So we have a question here. When did you find your voice in turning? When did you realize that you were coming of age, that you were doing your own thing, and you were actually headed in one direction or another?
When I started wood turning, I did not watch a lot of other wood turners. So I only knew other wood turners from pictures on the internet. So before I attended my first wood turning event, I thought, like, oh my God, those people are so good. I will never achieve this level of craft. And after I went to my first wood turning fair, then I came home and thought, like, okay, everyone is just cooking with water. And this is when I realized that some people, that there are a lot of good craftsmen and there are some really good artists. They are no wizards. And this is when I started to just what I enjoy. And I think this is how you find your work. So the worst thing you can do is like try. You cannot force. You just have to, I think, stick to what you enjoy and to what you like yourself. And then just need about 10 years, and you accidentally find your own voice. So it's a never-ending journey. It's a never-ending journey, and it's So I think if you want to find your own voice, it's good to stop trying to be someone else. And after that, it comes.
Okay, so there was a question here that I thought was funny. All right, it's from a crazy guy. He goes, "Do you find wood turning to be very sexually stimulating?" So this is obviously a guy who's never turned.
Yeah, so if you look at wood turning from a video or through a live stream, it's just like shavings flying through the air. It's just like it's looking really nice, but in the end, wood turning means to have shavings in your underwear all day long, and that's something
that's stimulating about that.
No. Probably if you are a weirdo, but not for this kind of.
And Jeff is he's definitely a weirdo. He's my homeboy. What type of lathe do you use?
I use a Hapfo. That's a German-made lathe from a very old company. And
is it an old lathe or just an old company?
No, it's an old company that is there for generations, but the owner changed through the years. But they have a lot of know-how, and they mostly make very, very high quality CNC wood turning lathes. So like this kind of lathe where you put in a piece of wood on one side and you've got a finished stair column at the other side. And so they have a lot of know-how, and they do almost for their own joy, they make also manual lathes. So if you make lathes that cost like 100,000 euros, then it's more a hobby to do a lathe that costs 7,000 euros.
Okay.
But
right. Now he also wants to know, is there anything you sing while you're turning? Do you listen to music while you turn or no?
I actually listen to audiobooks while I'm turning. So okay. I'm this kind of yeah. So let's be honest. I'm a bit of a weirdo myself. So
I was talking about the last time. We all are.
Yeah. so I'm very into like fantasy books. So Robert Jordan or the obvious kind of stuff. And this is what I'm listening to while I'm turning. And so since I'm turning a lot, I think it took me about 3 months to listen to 400 hours of Game of Thrones.
Wow. It says, how do you feel if you were working with wood? Relaxed? You just answered that one.
It's more like, so it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing stuff that I do when I'm turning gold blank, it's more like autopilot. So I don't have to think about what I'm doing. So it's just like, you know, when you're driving a car and you're just there at some, and you don't know the way from where you started to where you went. This is what I feel when I'm turning stuff that I turn a lot. And when I turn like very big, very thin, very, let's say, artsy pieces, then I'm just focused. Then I just think about what I'm doing at the moment. So it really depends on what I'm
doing. Okay. Still in Gray, what's up? Says, how do you sell and market your bowls? You can just recap, point up a little bit.
So it's a bit of a problem for me sometimes because people always think that I'm doing the big business. So I have a good Instagram page. I have a lot of followers. I'm getting published worldwide. So I had in the last 10 years I had about 800 publications about me being a craftsman, and I still don't sell a lot of work. And this is just because there is a very limited amount of people that are into wooden bowls. So you don't, my work is not too expensive, but you don't spend 50 to 100 bucks on a wooden bowl if you're not into wooden bowls. So there's a very limited amount of people who are into this kind of interior stuff, and so I really found out that this is what I have to work with. So there's a limited amount of customers, and I try to get them as good as possible. So obviously having a good web page, having a good social media accounts, and then just do good quality work. It's not. I've tried craft fairs, really like the best craft fairs in Germany, and I couldn't even earn what it cost me to go there.
Pay for the booth, right?
Yeah. And so I just try to do good work, and my dad is just driving by with a tractor in the background. I'm sorry for that.
No,
yeah, but it's basically I try to make good quality work, but because you cannot force people to buy your stuff. They have to think it's their own idea. It's a bit difficult to explain, but I know a lot of wood turners from all around the world, and some of them are very popular even to collectors of art.
Yes.
And even those are traveling the world to do woodturning classes.
All right,
And
now pause. 1 second. Paul, Christopher, who's in Africa, is asking, do you teach?
yes, but I don't teach woodturning.
Okay, what do you teach?
Math. So
Math?
yeah. So I'm not only a self-employed woodturner, but I'm also a self-employed math tutor. So
Very nice.
I basically make children pass their final exams. So this is what I'm doing 20 hours a week, and then I'm doing 40 to 50 hours of woodturning.
The
And
hustle is real, as we say.
yeah, and it's safe money. So I cannot say how many bows I will sell in the next month, but I can exactly tell you how many students I will have next year.
Exactly, yeah.
And when you
Yes,
do,
math.
yeah, and when you do 20 hours of teaching every week, then you don't want to teach grandpas woodturning in the evening. So
Right.
So I did woodturning classes at the beginning, but actually then I stood behind people watching them doing what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, maybe I do a bit more of the tutoring and stop with the woodturning classes. And there are so many good craftsmen who at some point started to do classes, and then they found out it's much easier with doing classes, and then they basically stopped being craftsmen and started being teachers. And this is something I don't want to. I think there is a risk if you so it's a real struggle to earn a living from woodturning. But I could do a woodturning class every day. I could do 2 or 3 classes every day. And
Right.
but if I would be very into this, I think I would stop being a woodturner, or I couldn't do the journey as I would like. So it would be easier for me to explain it in German, but yeah, basically I did woodturning classes, but I found out it's a trap.
Right.
And you know, I think it's the same in the States, but there are a lot of old people who are woodturners, or well, like some generations ago, a lot of people wanted to become craftsmen, but their parents didn't allow them. They say, "Oh, so do something proper." So they weren't allowed to learn craftsmen. So
Right.
when they retire, they want to like fulfill their childhood dream and buy a lathe or start woodwork. And this is perfectly fine. But yeah, so the typical woodturning class would be a 60 to 70-year-old guy with a 10-year-old cam who's showing you the last 200 pencils he made, and has a an angry wife at home.
Well, okay. Let me pause you. I'm gonna joke and I'm gonna be serious, right? So imagine me going into these symposiums, and most of it is a bunch of old white men. But they're not all unhappy. A lot of them are doctors, they're retired. They're pretty cool and strange characters. But I get what you're saying. There are more women that are turning now. And that's the reason for me doing the conversations is to get more people into this, allow more people to see the life of the wood turner and have it tangible where they can ask you questions and to see how it works.
Yeah. And just a story. When I was in Ireland, I think 3 years ago, I did a symposium. They have like those woodturning guilds, and once a year they have a big symposium. And I was invited to do some demos about bowl turning. And then when I came there, I asked, "Is there anything important to know?" And then someone said, "Yes, the first 2 rows will fall asleep after 10 minutes." But this is not because it's boring. So be aware of that. It's just because they're old. And this is basically what happened. So imagine you're doing a demo with 80 people, and the first 3 rows are sleeping. But the good thing was I was told this in advance, so it wasn't.
Don't take it personal.
But this is the reality when you are a woodturning demonstrator. So.
Right. Let's see if we have any questions.
Yeah, hello to Larry here in the stream.
Say it again.
I just greeted Phil Irons, who is a very good woodturner, and he's in the stream.
Got it. Trying to see. So can you tell more about your brush surface and the results you are going for? We want to talk more about your finish. We talked about that, but it's up to you if you want to talk more about it. Okay, now let me say we're at 10:54. We got 6 minutes. So
yeah.
The 6 minutes. Do you want to go further, or are you good with where we've gone?
Oh, we can go further. I have time.
All right, so we'll leave it up to the audience and see what, if they have questions, want to talk, we'll go more. If not, we'll end it. But go ahead. Talk more about your finishing application.
So it's basically not too special. I usually send up to 800 grit, and
okay,
since
hold that. We have the clock, so we're gonna come off and come on. You know what? Go ahead, finish it, because there's 1 minute and 42 seconds. So yeah. Go ahead.
So I send up to 800 grit, and then I change the direction of the lathe to rise the fibers, and then I apply 1 coat of very high quality hardwood oil. And if it's a salad bowl, I apply a very thick coat of my oil wax solution, put it at 100 degrees Celsius in the oven for about 1 hour, then wipe off all the excess oil, and then I leave it for a few weeks to dry. So that's basically everything. So there's nothing too special about my finishing process.
Okay.
Just
cool.
Use quality stuff, and don't use Danish oil.
And don't use what?
Danish oil.
Okay. All right. All right. So, have you had it? Okay. So have you Fox Feather have you had any injuries or accidents? We got 32 seconds. Let's. All right, so we're waiting to come in. Welcome back, you all. All right, so the last question was, have you had any accidents while turning?
So it's the first question, can you see me? Because I cannot see myself at the moment.
I can see you.
You can see me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see myself, but I don't need to see myself.
Can everyone else see him? Can everyone else see him?
So let's pick up the last question.
All right, the last question was, have you had any accidents while turning?
So what's pretty normal, especially when you start wood turning, is that you cut yourself constantly. So like you have the edges of the wood are really sharp, and if you're not concentrated, then you touch them, the sharp edges while the wood is spinning, and then you cut yourself. So this is something that happened a lot to me in the beginning, but it doesn't happen that often anymore. And I'm pretty lucky because I never hurt myself while turning wood. But wood turning is really not that easy to your body. So no, especially to the shoulders. So because you're like,
yeah, you know, as you say that, when I was turning consecutively, and Alan said it was because I was too tense. I had a shoulder pain, and it must have lasted for 4 to 5 months, and it's now just getting better.
Yeah. And so I think I have a good technique when it comes to being easy on the body. But anyway, if you turn 160 bolt lengths in a day, then this is just serious hard physical work, and at some time I will have to pay for this. So I have to do it because this is the only way you can make it. So you have to work hard and a lot, but you also at the same time know that this is not something you can do forever. So right. I think if when I'm 55 or 60, I won't be able to do this anymore. But then I will do other stuff. But I actually started to do yoga to just maintain my body. It's really important, like to not lift your shoulders, so to leave them resting on your core, and you learn the hard way to care. Right. And there are some things like the pinky on one hand, who is a bit sore because I used to pick up a piece with one hand, which is not a good idea to do it all day long. Right. So let's say that I haven't injured myself, but I damaged my body already through the hard physical work.
Right. Okay. So Wabi Sabi says, can you tell us how you plan your day? Do you have a goal?
It really depends on what I'm doing. So a typical day in the winter is nothing. It's pretty different from a typical day in the summer. So let's talk about my year first before I go into a day. So I usually get all the green wood over the winter months. So in the spring, I start to process the logs. So this means I'm working a lot with the chainsaw, I'm working a lot with the bandsaw, and I'm preparing up 500 bolt lengths in one rush. So I cut up a whole tree, I cut it in circles on the bandsaw, and then I place them outside my workshop to do like those 150 a day bowl turning sessions. And
Wow.
when I don't teach, I usually start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I work until 6 or 8 p.m. in the evening, and I do this 6 days. And I prepare the blanks at the day before. When I prepare, I try to turn the blanks that I prepare. So that's basically it.
Okay.
I try. So when I'm doing the rough turning stuff, I try to be as quick as possible to have more time for the finishing process. So even if I'm working really quickly, I take my time at the important steps. So the bowl blank is nothing special. You just can like hammer one piece after another, and you don't care about the quality of the surface. You just make them flying off the lathe. But when I do finish those bowl blanks, and I'm not 100% satisfied with the result, then I continue refining it until I am.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I cannot say that there's like a typical day, because every day is different, and this is what it makes great. What makes it great, yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay, so I think that's it. Next week we have David Stein, 3x3, and Geo Veneer. So we have a woodworker, a lady woodworker, and a lumberyard. So again, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we'll keep our eyes on you.
Yeah. So maybe we should finish with this little story.
Yes, go ahead.
So we're pretty close to Austria, and in Austria there are a lot of old woodturners. And I was working at a woodturning event, and there were two woodturners beside me, and they look a bit similar. So the older one is always saying that the younger one is his son. And there was this old guy every year with walking sticks, and very old, very like a redneck kind of guy. And he came every year and say like, "Oh, show me the spear turning jig. This year I'm going to buy it." And it was like the 5th year in a row, and he showed him every year, and he never bought it. And this time he said, "Go to my son. He will show you how to use the spear turning jig." And then the other woodturner just showed the woodturning jig, and the sphere came off the lathe. And then the old guy took his walking stick and smashed it on the head of the young woodturner, and he said, "Go to your father. He should tell you how to properly turn wood." And this is what happens when you are demonstrating in Austria.
All right, cool. Very cool story. All right, brother. Thanks, man.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Have a good one.